Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask Firebase Live Special Edition for Demo Day 2024. My name is Peter. I'm a developer advocate on the Firebase team, and I am super excited to be here with you today. And we have a host of exciting guests who you will probably know because they were the presenters on all the videos that we launched for Firebase Demo Day. So one brief word before we start the show and we bring on the guests. So we are the Firebase community, and I would ask everybody to be polite on the stream. You can use the live chat feature to get in touch with us, and we're actually looking forward to your questions. But please be civil, and let's be excellent to each other. And then we'll have a good time. And now, without further ado, let me bring on my fellow co-host, Noe. Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Are you excited?
Yeah, so I'm very excited. Yesterday, I didn't have a chance to actually sit down on demo day to watch all the videos, so I loaded them up yesterday and just digested them all. And I have my own questions I want to ask. So
Oh yeah, I'm curious what your questions will be. So
yeah.
hopefully nothing too serious though.
Yeah, well, you know me, it's never too serious, yeah. And then there's something else, but it just evaporated from my mind. So I kind of forgot what I wanted to ask already, but hopefully it'll come back to me.
Okay, cool. So folks on the stream, say hi, tell us where you're from, where you're dialing in from, and maybe which Firebase feature you are most excited about, which of the videos for Demo Day you like the most, and feel free to start sending in questions. We do have a couple of questions that we sourced from all over the internet. So we will go through those as well. But before we do that, let's bring on a couple more people. And you might recognize them from all the videos that you watched and maybe also from conferences. Hello, everybody. How's it going?
It's going well.
All right.
If you ask
cool.
us all questions like that, we don't know who's supposed to answer. So.
Yeah, don't all go at once.
All right. So maybe we can go around the room and everybody can quickly introduce themselves. And I have an icebreaker question for you. So you can either answer what's your favorite programming language, or you can answer tabs versus spaces. And if you're a spaces person, how many spaces of indentation? And we will start with Morgan.
Hey, everyone. I'm Morgan. Sorry, I was thinking about the tabs versus spaces question because it was just what you said last. But yeah, I work on Firebase DevRel, so I'm on the same team as Peter and Noe. And I mostly do some iOS platform stuff as well as Vertex AI. So any questions related to those, I'll hopefully be taking today. Tabs versus spaces. I always just use spaces and 4 of them because it's the most common default on IDEs and text editors out of the box. And I am really lazy with going into like changing settings. So like my VS Code is the default theme. My Xcode is the default theme. It's kind of heresy for some of you guys, but that's my preference. Back to you, Peter.
All right, cool. So Sandu is next on my screen.
Hey, Peter. Hey, everyone. I'm Alex Astrom, also known as Sandu. To quickly address your question, TypeScript and spaces, and probably my next favorite language will be natural speech English. I think we'll start seeing quite a bunch of software written in it.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. Awesome, thanks. Rosario is next.
Hey everyone, I'm Rosario. I work on the DevRel team. I mostly focus on Data Connect and Vertex AI, and that's actually what I was talking about in Demo Day. Tabs versus spaces, I prefer spaces, and I used to be a big fan of 4 spaces for a long time, but now I'm getting used to 2 spaces. It just saves you a lot of space. You may not realize it in the beginning, but it does save you some space.
We should have IDEs that show you number of spaces that you saved today because you just used 2 spaces to indent. Awesome. All right, Paulina, you're next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Polina. I am a software engineer at the Firebase AI monitoring. So happy to take any questions for the team. And you know what? I was thinking about tabs versus spaces, but I've been using like auto formatting for so long, I forgot that this has been a debate.
Oh, yeah. We did have somebody on who said they were indenting with 8 spaces. That was like the wildest I've ever heard. All right. Marina, you're next.
Hi, I'm Marina, and I'm also on the Firebase Developer Relations Engineering team. I mostly do stuff on Android. So my favorite language is Kotlin. Sandu kind of stole my joke because I was going to say Portuguese, and now I have to say Kotlin. So that's it, a bit about me. Back to you, Peter.
Thanks. Chris, you're next.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I'm Chris, Firebase developer working on app distribution right now. And yeah, in terms of tab versus spaces, because like, I love coming into like, one of those 1 versus 1 debates. I see tabs because that's 1 click. And if my IDE can't handle it, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm an agent of chaos, I guess.
What's your favorite programming language?
I would say TypeScript.
Okay. Yeah, very popular these days. Cool. Ryan, you're next.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Ryan. I am the product manager for Crashlytics and performance monitoring. And I, as part of my day job, I don't code in enterprise software. So when I'm coding, I do it for fun, and I'm usually pretty scrappy. So I use Python.
Nice. And Python has opinions about indenting, right? Oh, I think, Ryan, you froze.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Cool. It does, and I listen to them mostly. It's more suggestions than anything else.
Yeah. Okay, cool. James, how about you?
All right. Hey there, everyone. I'm James. I sit on the DevRel engineering team. And I do a lot of web stuff. I really work with our JS SDK and app hosting and Firebase hosting and all these great web things. So can I say anything else other than JavaScript and TypeScript?
Probably not.
Yeah, I have been starting to learn Rust. I'm really bad at it right now, but that's fun. But really, ECMAScript is close to my heart.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Rebecca, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca, or you might know me as the Dev Detective. I'm a software engineer on Firebase App Distribution, and it's hard not to like the programming language that you're using most often, so I'd have to say Kotlin. It's like Java, but better, more concise, more functional. And I'd say spaces, because I think spaces are more reliable. Tabs, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, so...
Fair enough. Fair enough. So about the Dev Detective. So the Dev Detective has been making their return. Or is it a she? I never know. Is it he, she, or they?
We could say they, yeah.
Okay, so they made their return. Where did the idea come from?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. I mean, Chris and I made a demo day video last year, and that's when the Dev Detective character started. And we just wanted to have fun. We wanted you all to have fun watching it. We tried on a few different ideas. We thought about superheroes for a while, and the Dev Detective just kind of stuck. I don't know if you want to add anything, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think we also tried a noir approach to our demo day video last year, but then we're limited in terms of time and budget for a set. We couldn't just build a detective office, so we wound up with what we wound up with, and I think it worked great.
Yeah, it does. Like, I really enjoyed watching this. It's super fun. Yeah, great job. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. So let's get into the questions. So let's take one of the questions that we sourced from all over the place. So we do have a couple of questions about Vertex AI. So maybe let's start with the thing that's on everybody's mind. What is the difference between the Google AI SDK and the Vertex AI in Firebase? So I guess Rosario or Morgan probably can answer that. Rosario, you want to go first? You're muted.
You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, he disappeared.
Oh, no. We lost him. I guess I can answer the question.
Yeah.
We'll wait for... Oh, no, he's back. Okay. I was going to give a bad
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So the difference between Google AI and Vertex AI in Firebase. So with Vertex AI and Firebase, you have an extra security layer that is provided by AppCheck. And what it does is basically attest your app to verify that requests are coming from a legitimate app. And so in Google AI, you have your API key in there, but your API becomes exposed on the client if you're calling everything from Android or Flutter or iOS or even a web app. But with Vertex AI and Firebase, we use AppCheck to verify that even though you have your API key exposed on the client side, the requests on the backend side is still going to be verified to make sure it's coming from your app, and there's no attacker using your API key in ways that you did not intend to. I think that's one of the main differences. Morgan, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was gonna say Vertex AI is just better, but Google AI it does have the advantage of being free. So for Vertex AI, you do need to have a paid Firebase account. If you're just tinkering around, then it's nice to use Google AI to get started. But if you're going to deploy anything to production, you should use Vertex AI. Vertex AI also, I think, has better availability across the globe. Yeah, go ahead, Peter. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was about to ask about the RPMs, the number of requests per minute that you can send. Isn't this also a difference?
Yes, the Google AI API limits are very low. And if you try to do something in production with it and you have any number of users that's more than 4 digits, you'll run into those limits pretty quickly. So that's another point for deploying stuff with Vertex AI and not Google AI. But Google AI is fun to mess around with.
Yeah. And we're
going to say,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Peter. I was going to say, while we're still talking about Vertex AI, one of these questions just popped up into the live stream that says, should I have AppCheck enabled to use Vertex AI? And I wanted to know if y'all could address that while we have you early.
Yeah, you don't have to, but you should. Why not?
It's
free security once you have an attestation provider. And then, as you know, when you deploy your app, if you don't have AppCheck, then the next time you deploy your app, you have to enable AppCheck kind of provisionally because you're still receiving API requests from the version of your app that doesn't have AppCheck. Right? So if you enable AppCheck and you start blocking unattested requests, the old version of your app is going to stop working. And so it's easier to just start and deploy your app initially with AppCheck, and you don't have to do that whole rollout. So yeah, I think definitely, especially because Vertex AI calls are expensive, you should have AppCheck enabled as soon as you add Vertex AI.
Yeah. Good point. Speaking of models, so both APIs talk to the same model in the backend, right? So it's both the Gemini models. We did have another question. Can I use other models besides Gemini?
So right now we are limited to just Gemini. So basically Google hosted models. But if there's any other model you'd like to use, we're open to feedback and we can like see if we can enable those, because Vertex AI as a service itself, like outside of Firebase, does support other models. So if there's any model you're using and you'd like to use it from your mobile apps as well or in Firebase, let us know. We're open to explore more.
So what if I want to use other models right now? So what are my other options? So if I can't use that in Vertex AI now, and maybe Sandu, that might be something that you can answer.
Yes, of course. One great option for you, if you're not limited to calling the models directly from the client side, would be to have your service on the backend. And we have a great product there. It's called Genkit. It has an amazing number of cool features, and it's incredibly easy to get started. Now, two of the best things are that first, you can use any model from the model garden. So you can keep everything running in Google Cloud, use your same billing, your same configuration, everything secure and easy to maintain, and use models from the model garden. There are a lot of really cool ones. We have, of course, all the Google ones. We also have a Claude model, and you can run any open source models as well, either the officially supported one or through Hugging Face download. The other cool thing, if you run your models on the server, you get AI monitoring. So you get infrastructure that is well integrated into Firebase, and you're essentially getting it with just a click and one line of code. So if you're already familiar with writing JavaScript/TypeScript code, and you already have a Cloud function running, a Firebase function, or a Cloud Run instance, it's very easy. Give it a try.
So that sounds like Genkit is something that I should be using if I have any backend functionality in place anyways. In the videos that we showed how to implement tool calling, which allows the model to connect to other APIs, and also retrieval augmented generation. So maybe we can talk about that for a moment. So why would I want to use something like tool calling or retrieval augmented generation instead of just sending a plain prompt? And maybe that also leads into the discussion of whether I should be calling the model directly from my client or through some sort of orchestration framework. Sandu.
Yeah. So first of all, it really depends what you want to do. I would say if you're just getting started with AI, start simple and focused, and choose a simple task that you can do in one round. But as you build your app, you'll probably want to tackle more complex workflows, which might involve multiple steps, or might involve data that does not fit in the available memory space. And maybe it's not just fast enough, right? Sometimes maybe you have a big database and just using all of it might be slow. That's where things like retrieval augmented generation comes into place. It allows you to scale your data to fit in your model's context or your model's memory. And tool calling is the other really cool thing. By creating tools and presenting them to your model, you can create an agent or a few agents. That's a new feature in Genkit. Again, check it out if you haven't, which allows you to have to define complex tasks in easy units. And we have a couple examples on how to do that. But that's essentially solving scaling and essentially data or computer science problems from an AI, Gen AI perspective. That's kind of the high-level vision.
Okay. So you mentioned AI monitoring before, and I wonder, so why or how does it come into play? So it seems like I can get some statistics about my AI flows that I run in the backend. So what are the core features of AI monitoring, and how can I use it to operate my application? Can you talk about this for a bit?
Yeah, of course. So Firebase AI monitoring provides metrics associated with either specific features or aggregated over the entire app. So you would have performance metrics such as number of requests, latency, error ratio, and so on, and also metrics associated specifically with your inferences, such as your input-output consumption of tokens, images. Um, so having this metrics, looking at it separately, or even just coupling together can give you an insight into volumes of data, and also can be a good proxy for understanding a more nuanced things, such as, for example, costs for request or in total. And in addition to looking at the metrics overall, you can also analyze data on the more individual level, looking at specific stack traces from your feature invocations. So you can inspect input and output throughout different stages of your flow. You can look at the associated metadata and perhaps troubleshoot the issues by understanding at what point the errors might have occurred or inconsistencies that you did not expect.
Okay, so some of that I can already do in the Log Explorer in the Cloud Console, right?
Yes, that's right. So the real difference comes with the ease of use of Firebase AI monitoring. So the way it works is Firebase AI monitoring essentially sits on top of the telemetry data that being exported into the Google Cloud and converts it into a much more consumable information for the user so that you can look at things and troubleshoot all in one place, kind of like with the information being spoon-fed to you if you wish.
Okay. Yeah, and let me
Peter,
see. Yeah.
Have you ever tried reading the logs from Cloud Console?
I have, and when I first saw it, I was well, probably like most of us. When I go into the Cloud Console, I'm like, oh my God, there is so much going on. There's like, I don't know, hundreds of products in there. And then you try to go to places that you feel comfortable. So the Log Explorer is something that is also very feature-rich and has lots of information. And I usually went to just see the log printouts, but somebody showed me that you can see the traces and stuff like that. So I was really blown away by when I first saw that. And I think, Paulina, you're absolutely right. What you can see in AI monitoring is so much more. It looks so much more friendly.
And let me add one more thing, which is Firebase AI monitoring is meant to work specifically with Firebase features, Firebase products. So right now we have we're focusing on Genkit, but at the same time there certainly will be support for all Firebase AI offerings, including the Vertex AI client SDKs that we were talking about earlier. And although I cannot share the timeline, I can tell you that this is already on the roadmap, and there is a potential for other integrations too. So this is meant to be kind of like, better together story for the Firebase products.
There was also a question around feedback signals. So I think one thing that you showed in the video was you can users can upvote or downvote an answer, right? And I think the way it worked was that you call an API and you send a signal. So somebody asked, what kinds of signals can you send? Is this limited to, yeah, this was a good answer or it was a bad answer, or is it completely flexible?
So thanks for the question. We actually just rolled out this user engagement set of signals that the developers can track, and they consist of two different signals. I'll talk about them just in more detail in a second. So one of them is feedback. That's something you mentioned. Thumbs up or down, something we've seen with a lot of AI products, right? Like after the inference, you want to know how the user has perceived, basically what's their sentiment towards the experience they just received. Perhaps they also can give you some more qualitative feedback, in terms of like what was the reasoning behind my sentiment. So now Firebase AI monitoring tracks it all. We associate it with those specific indications. So when you're, first of all, when you're looking at the specific trace, you also have this feedback metadata next to you, so you can better understand what went wrong. But also you can look at this metrics holistically to understand like what's the overall sentiment for my app, what's the trend for my app, are users liking it more. Now, but let's not lie to ourselves. Feedback is great, but not everyone diligently responds to this up and down. In fact, I will tell you probably like less than half people do for sure. So another signal that we've established is acceptance. And think of it as the signal that the developer, instead of the end user, tells us. And that is associated with some kind of end user action that is confirming the feature to be either successful or not. Thinking of, let's say, a recommendation app, perhaps a success would be if the end user ended up clicking the recommendation to learn more, and failure would be if they ended up dismissing it. So this is based on the end user action, which means that the developer is much more likely to get this signal from the user. It can be used as a proxy for the sentiment. If you were to make some kind of analogy, you can think of key events in Google Analytics, except this one is specifically to track whether the feature was accepted versus rejected.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm super excited about this, and I haven't found enough time to play around with it yet, but I'm super keen to do that. And the charts look absolutely beautiful. So I mean, even if you have errors in your flows, then it looks beautiful, and it's very enticing to go in there and see what's happened, right? So yeah. Great work. I think I saw a question on the live stream about something that was related. Let me see. Oh yeah, it was about something that we talked about earlier. So it was about AppCheck token expiration. So somebody asked, what's the expiration time for AppCheck tokens? Does anybody know?
I take that one.
Yeah,
I do know. So if you are minting your own tokens, you can set the token expiration anywhere from like 30 minutes to 7 days. And in the Cloud Console, or not Cloud Console, the Firebase console, you can also change the expiration time limit from anywhere between 30 minutes up to 7 days. So if you have like a high value endpoint where you want to attest that your users are still there after a short range of time, you could do that. Just be warned that it will increase the request to your attestation provider, and different attestation providers have different limits to how often you can request a new attestation. So, and it all depends on the provider. I believe the default ones, play integrity. Morgan, you might have to help me out with the iOS one. I think it's called like device check and app attest. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
All right. Lots of nods. Oh, I could ask Peter too. And then reCAPTCHA Enterprise, or I'm sorry, those two have unlimited, and then reCAPTCHA Enterprise is a paid service. After so many requests, you incur a cost. So that's just something to be warned about. And I think, Ryan, you look like you're halfway between a raised hand. Did you have something you want to add? Okay, I wasn't sure if you're just stretching or like, oh, I have something to add there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. There might be a question for Ryan, maybe. Somebody asked, what is Crashlytics? That's a very generic question, but here you go.
Ryan, you're muted, my friend.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So Crashlytics is very near and dear to my heart. It's what I work on. It is a mobile crash reporting tool that will automatically log all of your fatal errors, non-fatal errors if you want to add those, ANRs. And we offer it across all sorts of different platforms across the mobile ecosystem. And so when your app does crash, we collect things like stack trace, any custom logs or keys that you add, and then we basically do whatever we can to help you solve it and get you and your users back to working order.
And it's very popular, right? So whenever I go to conferences and ask people, do you use Firebase? They will say, yes, I do. And then you ask them which part specifically, and most of them will say Crashlytics or analytics. That's also very popular. And I've also noticed that a lot of people now make the direct association between Firebase and Firestore. So they will say, I've got a problem in Firebase. I want to read documents. I'm like, all right, so you're talking about Firestore. Yeah, good stuff. All right, so I've got a question about Crashlytics and the AI testing agent. So let's assume I want to get data from Crashlytics and feed that into my testing for my testing agent. Is that possible?
It is. It's possible manually right now. We've been working very closely with that team to try and figure out if we can work on something a little bit more automated. But you can the user journey that we usually talk about is crashes discovered in Crashlytics. You solve it. You figure out the root cause and you understand why it's happening, and then you go to your automated tester agent and you say, I want to make sure that this crash doesn't happen again. This is what led to the crash. Can you make add this to my testing queue so that we hopefully get ahead of a regression?
Okay. Yeah, I think that is. I saw some of the comments on the videos, and people seem to be genuinely excited about the testing agent. So on that, we seem to have really hit like a nerve with that product there.
Oh yeah,
Rebecca,
I mean my teams back in the day, you would have to manually click through all of the elements that you wanted to test, and then set up your whole queue, and then if somebody changed one of those things or even named it differently, then you'd have to go back and redo all of your tests. So just to be able to set a goal and say, do this thing, even if the UI changes a little bit, I mean, it's a game changer.
Yeah. Somebody asked, can you provide more examples of how the AI testing agent handles complex user interactions or edge cases? So and then I was wondering myself, so how does it understand the app? And I mean, apps are so complex these days, right? Even a simple application is super complex. There is a lot going on screen. And for example, if you look back when Apple made this change from skeuomorphic design to this flat design, everything looked like, people complained about, I can't even see what's a button. And I guess that is probably a thing that is a challenge for an automated tool like the testing agent as well, to understand what's a button, where can users click, and what should happen, right? So maybe Rebecca and Chris, maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks. I'd love to talk about how we're kind of, providing tools such that, as you develop these complex apps, the AI testing agent has tools in its own toolkit to use. So we've created these things like hints that you can provide to the testing agent. They're like little instructions that help guide the agent when handling more of those complex test cases and edge cases. So you'll have the ability also to break down goals into steps to provide additional guidance. So it's not just get to level 5, it's start. You can write down your goals as start the level, complete level 1, change the settings, and then complete level 2. And we do this because a key part of this feature is going to be iteration. You're going to be able to see step by step all the actions your agent took. and then like the rationale behind those actions as well. And that can help you identify how to adjust the test prompts to get the test right for your app.
Yeah, and I just have to add, like,
sorry, go
in
ahead.
addition to like the tools that we provide, because we know, like, as users, you probably want some control over it, and the AI isn't going to do exactly what you want it to do. And having like the hints or being able to write multiple goals is crucial to that. But I think just to share our experience building the feature, like, we've been surprised more times, that Gemini ends up doing pretty well. Like, it actually, sometimes it's not perfect, but it ends up kind of figuring it out and is able to do the right action most of the time. And we're also using screen understanding models, and we expect these to continue to improve, probably at like, really fast rates as we move into the future. So
would it be possible to point it at an application and tell it to cover the entire application and expect that it would be able to just cover all of the flows and get like complete test coverage? Or is that unthinkable?
I think that's really interesting, and that's actually one of the things that we've been trying out. And I think there's a bit of a balance between like what is feasible and what is ambitious. But I think as we move towards a world where the models continue to advance, that's definitely possible. Like, there's definitely potential in the future to build upon this feature so that it can understand your app, potentially even, collaborating with other Firebase features, right? Like taking data from Crashlytics or remote config and learning about what users are actually doing in the wild, and then reverse engineering that to build a complete suite of test cases. Like, ideally in the future, you don't have to do any testing at all. Like, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking to me.
Yeah. I think speaking to most people, right? I mean, like, we all know it's like flossing, that it's good for you, but we don't do it often enough or well enough, I think. So I'm guilty of that myself. What about data security and privacy, though? So when the testing agent goes through the application, what kind of data or what happens with what's happening on screen? Do we collect any of that? Is it stored anywhere? Or
Yeah, I can take this one. I think within an AI world, data privacy and security is probably on everyone's minds, and I think that's fair. And we want to build features that are, that you can use and trust and don't have to worry about that. So all of the data you provide is just used for the business purpose, so you can test your app. It's owned by you. You can delete it at any point. And also, just to be explicit, it's not used for any model training. Really, the goal here is just to build a feature that helps you all as developers build better apps and test better. So, yeah.
Okay. And what about supported platforms? Can I use it on iOS?
Not yet. Right now, we're planning on launching our public preview to Android devices first, but the goal is to get it to all platforms. So,
very cool. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. Noe, do we have any exciting questions from the stream?
Yeah, lots. We've been getting a little away from that. There's one, I believe, for James. Flutter web apps and app hosting. What do you got for me, brother?
Yeah, Flutter web apps and app hosting. Right now, I would say app hosting, we've been very focused on the full stack use case, right? Like these meta frameworks, Angular SSR and Next.js. I think Flutter web applications right now are best served by Firebase hosting. Firebase hosting is great for static web applications. And really, it was that those rewrites to a Cloud Run backend or a Cloud Function was just it got a little kludgy with Next.js and Angular SSR. But I think for Flutter, it's static. like that's a great use case for Flutter, and then you can add those dynamic pieces as you need. And yeah, stick with Firebase hosting. I think eventually, like the plan is for us to have much better static offerings in app hosting, but we are just very laser focused on that full stack web application story right now.
Nice. And then I believe this question I'm going to pass to everybody in the room because I don't know who would be best to answer it. But with Vertex AI, there's more than just Gemini, right? And that's what we offer through the Vertex AI SDKs. Do we have any plans for the reasoning engine through Vertex AI for Firebase or any of those other value add services that Vertex AI has? Don't everybody jump in at once. Maybe Morgan can answer.
I'm going to say maybe. If you want to use those now, you have to do so through cloud. You cannot do so through Firebase. So you'd have to go to the usual cloud pre-GA stuff. It's somewhere on cloud site. I'm going to hand wave this a little bit. But
gotcha.
Yeah, for the time being, no, you cannot use those services through Firebase.
And then if I wanted to ask, the team and make it like a formal request, is there anywhere I should go? Everybody should be able to answer this one.
Yeah, you go to firebase.google.com/support and you file a feature request.
Or user voice, right?
Oh, yes, user voice. User voice is actually the right answer.
Softball for you, Morgan.
Sorry, I do everything through firebase.google.com/support. So if you want to do anything related to Firebase, if you have any questions that you want in an email, you can do so through that channel as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a plug here for Genkit again. Any API, right? You can call through there, and we also have this really cool thing which is called community contributed extension plugins there. Check them out. Write your own. Share the knowledge. This is possible with custom code, and I think it will only get easier to write your custom code, especially since we also have a really cool AI-powered IDE, Project IDX, which has deep integration with Firebase, and it will only get better over time. So if you maybe ask this question half a year from now, maybe the answer will be, yeah, just open IDX, click a few buttons, and you have custom code for that. I don't know. Give it a try.
Yeah,
nice.
For sure.
And then let me ask this. While I have some Firestore experts in the room, when are we going to get vector support for Firestore?
So we already do have support for vector search in Firestore, but I think that's not what this question is asking, right? Could we see a future bringing simple TS vector support for full text? I think this is a full text search question.
Oh, okay.
I unfortunately cannot speak to the future Firestore roadmap, but there is cool stuff coming for Firestore. That's all I got for you. They won't let me say anymore.
And also, I mean, you can use the embedding. If you embed the text or the fields that you want to search, then you can implement some sort of full text search based on that, right? So it is maybe a little bit, currently, if you want to call it from the client, you will have to use the extension that we built for it, and the developer experience is okay, but it could be better. But it's definitely something that works. There is a code lab for it, I think, that somebody built, and it shows how to do this kind of like full text search on a field. But it's different than what people expect from a traditional full text search, I think.
Yeah, I'm abbreviating the questions a little bit too much, it seems. And James, you just smiled at me, so I have a question for you. When will app hosting be available in London?
London. We actually just spun up a European region for Firebase app hosting. Europe.
Is that
West
all of Europe
4?
or just part of Europe? Or
yeah.
Is London Europe?
Geographically speaking.
I'm not.
That's a spicy question, right? Where is Europe West 4?
It's
I know we spun
Netherlands.
up there.
It's
All right.
Netherlands.
in the Netherlands. So just across the pond a little bit.
Okay.
From London. But yeah, I think the plan right now is stick with these regions, right? We spun up a couple core regions. We have one in Asia, we have one in Europe, and then focus on the experience. But we ultimately want to bring all of the regions that Cloud Run is available in. We do want to light those up at some point, but yeah, don't want to speak to roadmap there.
Speaking of London, I saw a question about passkeys. I think somebody asked, when will passkeys come to Firebase? And I know that someone in this room has been working on a couple of videos about auth on Android. So Marina, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I know it's in the roadmap, but it's still not available. Rosario also just joined and is also very knowledgeable in that area. But yeah, Pesky is its own and in the roadmap. And these videos that you just mentioned are going to be released soon. And they teach how to use Credential Manager and Firebase authentication to build authentication and signing with Google on Android apps. And Credential Manager is an Android API that allows you to use passkeys. So if you start learning it now, then when passkeys are available in Firebase authentication, it's just even easier to add that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Firebase Auth is one of the key products in Firebase, right? I mean, everything connects to that. So maybe here's another question that a lot of people might have. Let's assume that I'm building an application and I want to make it really secure. So maybe I've got a multi-platform application. So I've got something running on the back end. I've got a mobile application for Android, another one for iOS. I've got my web front ends. So how can I keep this safe and secure? So I guess this is a question that pretty much everybody in the room can answer. So maybe let's start with Android. How can I keep my Android application safe and secure? What are some of the things that I should consider? Marina, can you take this?
Mm-hmm. So 3 things that come up straight to my mind as you ask that question. Well, first, app check, as we've mentioned here. I would add Firebase authentication and as many authentication methods as you can, so you can also have it in different platforms. So for example, if you have signing with Apple, it makes it even easier when you have your iOS app. So authentication, app check, and also set up security rules if you have real-time database, Firestore, and cloud storage. Those are the 3 things I would do straight away before releasing an app to production. Rosario, do you want to add anything on the Android side?
I actually wanted to do a plug to a documentation, a page that we have on our documentation that is called Firebase Launch Checklist. So if you Google that, it might be the first result. But we updated that page recently, and it has tons of recommendations of things you should keep in mind before you launch your app to production. And it has all sorts of things that Marina mentioned, like security rules, app check, disabling authentication providers that you're not using, and many more stuff. So definitely check that out if you want to keep your app secure.
Here is the launch checklist. So it covers many products. So looks like it is very, very complete. We even have added support for Vertex AI and Firebase here. So Google or use your favorite search engine to search for Firebase launch checklist.
I'm going to add a few tips for backend stuff in general and AI workflows specifically.
Yeah.
So first thing you should do whenever running code on your backend, which generally has more wider access to your system than on the client, is to check who is calling the code. So do your auth checks first in code. Make sure that the very first thing you do, validate that the token is valid. Don't reinvent security. Use our SDK to make sure the claims are correct. Once you pass that, the next thing, make sure the inputs make sense. So especially when calling AI models, You want to prevent any injection attacks. You want to prevent misuse that could leak data through an external tool call. So if you're dealing with sensitive data, use one of the services that sanitizes your input. Make sure that it doesn't look funky before you send it to your model. It's really important once you scale up to have this plan on how to deal with these things. Maybe it's not very important when you prototype things, you just want to get work done. But once you ship, it's critical to make sure you have safety when you get data into an AI, and you have safety when you get data out of an AI. And maybe one more thing, properly store your API keys. I cannot state this enough. Make sure you don't store it on your server, in your GitHub repo. Make sure you don't send it to your client unintentionally. And if it's available on the server, use services that read these at runtime and make this auditable. So if a key is leaked, you can trace back, rotate it, and continue your application like nothing happened, right? Make sure you use these services. We have them in cloud. They require a little bit of setup. But once you get it once, you know how to do it.
Okay, very cool. Thanks for adding that. There is another question that you might also be able to answer, Sandhu. Lots of people are interested in Genkit. So am I missing something, or is incorporating a Genkit backend through Firebase SDK in iOS only possible directly via Firebase functions?
Yeah, so I'll quickly answer what Genkit is, and then you decide what is the right answer here. So Genkit is, right, it's a TypeScript / JavaScript library. So it runs wherever you can run either Node.js or another compatible runtime code, right? If you can run it in a certain environment, you can run the code. You can run it in a sandbox, right? I would say probably if you're targeting iOS specifically or Android, I don't think these devices are your best host for Node.js runtime. So I would probably use a server side in this case. But we see interesting use cases with agents that emerge, and also hybrid workflows with local AI, remote AI. So my answer right now would be yes, run it in cloud functions, because that's what we currently support. But if you have a reason to run it somewhere else, let us know what your goals are, because that might be an interesting use case to hear about.
Let's take one more question from the live stream. So here's one about Data Connect. So who here knows something about Data Connect and can answer this? How do you sanitize your data with Data Connect? Do you do it in a cloud function or on a client, maybe? I don't know.
Do we have cloud functions available for Data Connect yet? Like the hooks?
Yeah, I can answer that. We don't yet have like the hooks for cloud functions in Data Connect, but we do have an admin SDK. So we might get some triggers coming up soon. But right now you'd have to sanitize your data on the client. We don't have like support for doing it on cloud functions yet.
Okay. Noe, what else is going on the live stream?
So many things. I'm trying to keep up with it all. I have like a doc that I'm copying all the comments into, so that way we could try and get to them all. But it's really hard to do and pay attention to everybody talking. It is very innovative and interesting how Gemini joined all the Firebase services. Is this for everyone, or is it just in testing?
Oh, do you mean the person asked about if this is, you can use it in production?
I believe it's, can they use it in production today? The Gemini in Firebase. Oh, I don't know if that's in the console or in the their apps. So do we know if the console experience for everybody is available for everybody? Rosario, just give me a nod. I'll take that as a yes with some commentary.
It should be available.
Okay.
You still have to opt in, right?
Oh no!
Yeah, there are terms of service for you to accept, so
Yeah.
you have to accept those terms of service.
Yeah.
You need to activate it based on project based, if I remember.
Correct.
Okay. Here is another one that I think we briefly touched on. So it's about API key management. I use Firebase services and rely on auth. Now I want to provide users API keys so that their third-party apps can interact with my backend. Is this possible with Firebase?
Through custom code.
It sounds to me like this user is trying to build an API based on the Firebase platform, and they want to create API keys that they can pass out to other apps or developers that can use the backend they built. Is that?
This could be a great extension, but I think you have to do it through custom code right now.
Yeah, it's kind of DIY right now. I could see something clever where like you use the admin SDK to mint custom tokens and kind of create like API accounts. But yeah, that is very much in the DIY, not part of the Firebase auth experience. And, you could creatively misuse some of the things that we have, but then you lose control, right? Because if we don't do something that you really need, then you're going to get in trouble, right?
Yeah, definitely. I saw a question about Firestore and all queries. Noe, did you answer this by text already?
I did. So I've been also trying to keep up with the text chats as well. Or queries are available, and I did link a link to the documentation in the chat.
Nice, thanks. All right, so we're approaching the 1 hour mark. So maybe we can take 1 or 2 more questions. But before we do that, I want to give it to the team to ask the users a question. So if you had one question that you could ask our users who are watching right now, what would it be? Think about it for a moment, and then I'll go around the room. But I want to plug one thing where people can go in order to ask or file their feature requests, and I'm going to share my screen to do that. So let's share a window. I think this is it. Bam. So if you have a feature request for Firebase, you can go to firebase.uservoice.com, and then you can enter your idea, pick a category, and then you can see that you've got all sorts of, well, you can't see it because it's just capturing the window. But all the products are listed in category, and you can see lots of other ideas already that people submitted, and you can vote on them, and you can specify how important this is to you. So with that, everybody had a minute to think about a question that they would ask the users who are watching right now. So who wants to go first? Maybe a PM? I'll single out people if no.
I can go first. I can go first if no one has a question. Because I've been through this recently, and then I spoke with some people in a conference recently as well about the same thing, and that sparked very interesting conversations. So I want to ask developers, when you are, so this is coming from using the Vertex AI SDK on an Android app. But if you're using Vertex AI SDKs on your apps, either mobile or web apps, how do you change? Are you hard coding like your prompt and your model configuration, your settings, the temperature? How are you approaching configuring your model on the client side, especially if you have more client apps than like just one? In my case, it was just Android, but I was thinking, okay, if I want to have an iOS one, if I want to have more apps, how am I going to make sure all my client apps are using the same configuration?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. Feel free to answer that question in the comments to this video.
Okay.
If you have an answer for that.
I do, because I used on my app, but I am interested in seeing what are the different approaches that people are using out there.
Yeah, so tell us what you think, and then Marina will have a look out for your answer, and then she will tell you what she did, or what she ended up doing. Any other questions for the users?
I would like to ask one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it sounds like there's been a lot of interest in Vertex AI and Genkit. So Firebase AI monitoring is just entering. We're currently in the private preview. So I'm wondering, those who are already using the Vertex AI SDKs and Genkit, what's your go-to monitoring solution right now? And what would you like it to be if you had a magic wand?
Nice. Very good questions. Leave a comment in the video. Maybe one more.
I have a great plug. What is your favorite web framework? Firebase app hosting has been Angular SSR and Next.js since we entered public preview. However, we just released a platform adapter specification. If you go to our docs and go to build, there's some links out to it. It's a long GitHub URL that I can rattle off. But we have a specification now in which web frameworks can build out an adapter so that they can be hosted on Firebase app hosting. So sound off in the comments, go on user voice, make sure we hear you. If you are not a Next.js or Angular user and want us to add support for your favorite web framework.
I was about to say, people, you turn around and then a new web framework comes out, right?
Yeah. Now it's a little deceiving because like these web frameworks, they're built on common tooling usually, right? So there's a bit of mix and match, make your own favorite framework. So it's like, oh, is it built on Vite or Nitro or Webpack or TurboPack? And then what's the front end? Is it React? Is it Angular? Right? So you have a lot of different flavors of very similar technologies.
Yeah. Noe.
Yes.
You have something on your mind.
Yes, there is one thing on my mind. I just want to say the most often question that I get, especially when I go to conferences, is where's Rosario? And he's at the bottom of the screen today. Yeah, so we know where he's at.
I'm here.
It's usually the first question I get at a conference is they're like, hey, I think you're great, but where's Rosario?
Okay, do you have any more live questions that we didn't get? Talk about web frameworks. Somebody mentioned Swift's Vapor framework. That's a first on a Firebase live stream. There you go.
That's interesting. Right now, I would clarify right now, Node.js runtimes. So the backend is Node.js. We do want to explore other languages as the backend runtime for Cloud Run.
Yeah, you'd probably you could cross compile to WebWasm, I guess.
Yeah, Wasm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow! Like lots of reactions right now. So that is yeah. It seems like you really hit a nerve there. Okay, cool. Noe, did you have any other questions that we should definitely get to?
There's only one thing that I think we didn't touch at all, and this was one of our offline questions. I believe it was, what are the benefits of using feature flagging with remote config for AI features? And we might have already answered it. I might not have been paying attention though. Is that,
I don't think we did.
Ryan? Okay.
Yeah, I can take that one. So when I think of rolling out AI features, I usually am immediately terrified. There's a lot of control that you lose when you leave it all up to the AI, and putting it behind a feature flag is a fantastic way of rolling it out and having at least some control to make sure that if things go off the rails, you can pull it back. Also, rolling it out, you want to make sure that you can have as much control as possible. And it also makes it easy to try to roll it out to just a handful of people, maybe 10%, 20% of your audience, before you just go wild and roll it out to everybody. So I think it adds another layer of protection and security that just going for it doesn't provide.
Yeah, and that's probably also one answer for Marina's question to the users, right? How do you control your prompts?
Yeah, and model configuration settings as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it seems like we've gotten most of the questions that people asked on the live stream. Yep. Now, if people are keen to join more live streams, we're doing this on a somewhat regular basis. Noe is making a really funny face at the moment. So if you can't get enough of funny faces and banter about Firebase technology, Go, and all sorts of fun stuff, you can join us on a somewhat regular basis. Go to the Firebase YouTube channel and click that bell, subscribe to the channel. Also, I think most of the people in this room can be seen on a somewhat regular basis on regular videos. Personally, I am looking forward to seeing more of Dev Detective. And I think the baristas were also such a fun idea. So I hope to see more of that in the coming months, or maybe next year. But let's not wait too long. And with that, I want to thank everybody who was on the stream, and I also want to thank all our presenters here. So let me try this. So thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for everybody who answered all of those questions. Folks, if you have more questions, drop them into the comments. We'll try to go through them. Also, you know that you can file feature requests at firebase.uservoice.com. And with that, a happy rest of the day to all of you, and I look forward to seeing you on the internet or in real life at a conference or in one of our videos. Thanks, everyone, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. We're no longer live.
We're back. No, it's we're live still.
No, we're
It's
not.
so weird when it kicks everybody out.
Oh, wait. Wait,
You back
let's.
We are live.
We are still live.
Yeah. Welcome to Firebase After Hours.
All right.
Accidental
Let me
after
try
hours.
ending the stream once again.
Should we just keep it going?